Going live, and we're live. Give me just 1 second. I have some friends that are coming, and I need to send them the link. 1 second. If you're watching the replay, I'm sorry for the beginning of this video. Hi, my name's Evelyn Joy, or Teacher Evelyn. I work for VIPKID, and this is a live teacher meetup. Give me just a second. Yes, there we go. We're going to share this link with friends, and then we're going to chat when people get here. So, tell me in the chat box a Spanish phrase you would like to learn. Hello, Vanessa Silver. Are you a VIPKID teacher? So my van, horrible. I need to brush my teeth. I just ate chocolate cereal, so my bad. Oh my goodness. Do you see that? That is lipstick. Okay. Looked like I was a vampire for a second there. Okay, so today, last night and this morning, last night I cleaned out my van. So I got a huge bag of trash and a huge bag of toys and clothes and shoes, and cleaned it out. Then this morning, after classes, I removed all 3 of my kids' car seats and adjusted their seat belts their shoulder straps 1 level higher because they've all grown. And my husband's going to help me out vacuuming the van and reattaching all the car seats. He's really good at installing them real nice and snug. So all of this in preparation for our road trip we're going to go on. So cleaning out the trash because we're going to be packing up the van. Yesterday in the mail came 3 umbrella strollers with shades that I bought for the road trip. We're going to Kentucky for a 3-day weekend, and we're going to the Creation Museum and the Ark. So there's going to be a lot of walking. It's going to be myself, my husband, and my mother-in-law with my 4-year-old, my 3-year-old, and my 2-year-old. So we're each going to push 1 umbrella stroller. I ordered new tennis shoes for myself because I'm pregnant and I've been dealing with a lot of foot pain lately. So I ordered some Dr. Scholl's tennis shoes, $50. So hopefully they're really good. And I might buy some insoles to put in them for some arch support as well. Hello, Kelly, and welcome to the party. I also bought new tennis shoes for all 3 of my kids and backpacks. Since they were on sale, I got them each a backpack. Since it's just a weekend thing, they're each going to have a backpack of like clothes and diapers and activities for the van. We're going to drive overnight so our kids just sleep in the van and they're not fussy. And then when we get there, we're going to rest a little bit, but my husband and I are going to switch off driving. So should be interesting. But been planning that. Today, I'm actually going to a meetup. My husband is wonderful. So he's watching the kids because the VIPKID teachers are meeting up at an Apple store. And my kids would be like 3 bulls in a china shop. They would destroy the Apple store. So, I wasn't going to go, but since he's able to watch the kiddos, I am going to go. It's at 2 p.m. today, but it's a smaller meetup. Some of the meetup leaders and myself and a bunch of us volunteers, there's maybe 7 to 10 of us that are in a group chat planning a meetup for September 8th. For VIPKID teachers in Kansas City. It's a family meetup, so it's VIPKID teachers and their families. It's at a park, and we're gonna have a potluck, picnic, and activities. It's gonna be so much fun. And I'll be sure to make a video of it. And sorry, my teeth. Anyway, I need to brush my teeth. They look really yellow right now. But so we're planning that for September 8th. It's a Sunday. We're doing it in the afternoon, like 3 p.m. So it won't be quite so hot outside. Here in Kansas City, it has been super hot lately. So there's that. On Thursday, all 3 of my children are going with me to my OBGYN appointment where they're going to be drawing my blood for a diabetes test. So I don't have diabetes. I've never had it with any of my pregnancies, but it's just routine to always get tested for that. Thank you, Vanessa. That's very sweet of you. What is more concerning to me is high blood pressure, which is very dangerous in pregnancy, and I have a tendency to have. So I am taking a baby aspirin every day. I had gestational hypertension when I was pregnant with Esther. I had preeclampsia at the very, very end of my pregnancy with Deborah. And preeclampsia, it begins with gestational hypertension, which is high blood pressure in pregnancy. And then it progresses to, because it affects the way that your kidneys process protein. So protein begins to show in your urine when it advances to preeclampsia. And this can be dangerous for the mother and the baby, but the only cure is childbirth. So I was diagnosed at 36 and a half weeks with Deborah. So they waited a few days and I had a C-section with her at exactly 37 weeks, 0 days, because it can quickly or slowly advance to eclampsia, which can cause seizures and possible death of the mother or death of the baby. So very little is known about like what causes it, but statistically, if you're overweight like myself, if you're over like 35, which I'm not, but I'm over 30, if you've had it in any previous pregnancies, or if you have multiples like twins or triplets, it just raises your chances of having preeclampsia. But the one thing that doctors and scientists have discovered that helps prevent gestational hypertension, high blood pressure, which advances to preeclampsia, one thing that helps is taking a baby aspirin, not a regular aspirin, but like half dose, right? So the low dose aspirin once a day. They don't know exactly why it helps, but statistically it helps. So when I was pregnant with Joshua, I was very nervous about taking it. So I didn't take it very much, but I took it some. And I never had high blood pressure with Joshua, never had preeclampsia with him. He went to 10 days past his due date. So also women who very commonly have miscarriages also take a baby aspirin, and it has prevented miscarriage. What does the baby aspirin do? As far as scientists can tell, baby aspirin just thins your blood, and that somehow affects your blood pressure, and it helps. Also, if you have high blood pressure, eating less salt can help. Exercising can be good, or if you have preeclampsia, you don't want to raise your blood pressure to a dangerous level, so you shouldn't exercise a lot, but just remaining active. Also, since I'm definitely going to be having my 4th C-section and getting my tubes tied, it's good to be active, but not overly active. So to remain active, walking, exercising, but also having good hygiene to prevent infections, all that stuff. So anyway, that's the things that have been wheeling through my brain. I, for the most part, am past the terror of losing this baby and am now to the stage of being excited. And I'm going to read what Vanessa's saying. I had preeclampsia for both of mine and induced for both. One lasted 3 days giving birth. Walking, yes. With Esther, I was induced when I was 1 centimeter dilated, and I was 36 weeks and 6.5 days pregnant with her. 37 weeks, 0 days. is full term. So I was induced. I was in labor for 36 hours, no dilation change. Then I was screaming, and I had a really mean nurse who was telling me that I'm going to hurt my baby by screaming, but like, let's hook you up to some Pitocin and see how you feel after 36 hours. I was screaming, and I should have been moaning so that I could bring more oxygen to the baby. So they put an oxygen mask on me. Anyway, they finally, the mean nurse got me my epidural. So I had an epidural finally after 36 hours. And that same mean nurse, I don't know her name. I didn't complain about her because I should have. But she raised my Pitocin levels to try to get this labor going because she was annoyed with me. That's just my opinion. Obviously, maybe not a fact, but I felt that way. She was scolding me for screaming because she said I was going to hurt my baby, which maybe was true. So yeah, the epidural was amazing, like you said, Vanessa. Luckily, it worked. But she raised the Pitocin levels too much, I think, and my baby's heart rate, Esther's heart rate, plummeted to undetectable. So they rushed me into the operation room to have an emergency C-section, try to get the baby out. But my doctor was not in the building. This was in the middle of the night. It was like midnight. My doctor was in a different city. So, and the only other doctor that could do the C-section was in a C-section at that time. And so was already operating. So there's no other doctor that could operate on me. The nurses were running around frantic in the operation room. And I just had this peace. And I don't know whether to attribute it to the epidural, because I don't think so. But I really attribute it to the Holy Spirit. I just had a peace, and I said, God's got this. And I just believed that my baby was okay and that I was going to be okay. And I was singing like hymns quietly, because I was kind of in a weird state of mind. So anyway, oh, Kelly has to go driving your daughter to school and running errands. All right, that's fine. Good to see you. So anyway, my husband wasn't allowed in the operation room because they didn't know whether my baby was going to come out safely. And somehow my doctor appeared out of nowhere, and it was like he got there in the nick of time. They got my baby out quickly, and she was fine. They were like, what? You know, it was God. So all that to say, I asked the doctor a couple weeks later at my checkup, or a week later at my checkup, I said, how did you get there so quickly? He was driving his sports car like 125 miles an hour on the highway at like midnight. So, or like 11:30. She was born at 12:13 a.m., something like that, 12 something a.m., the morning of a red full moon. And I remembered hearing stories that sometimes when babies don't take a breath, if they hear their mother's voice, it can make them like take their first breath. So as soon as they had her out, there's a curtain, so I couldn't see her, but I just started talking, and I was like, hi, Esther, welcome to the world. You know, I'm so excited to meet you, and all this stuff. And I couldn't see her. And then I heard her cry, and I was like, oh, you have the most beautiful cry. I just kept talking to her to make sure that she could hear me and know that everything was okay. And I told her, you know, I'll never be annoyed by your cry. You can cry as much as you want to. And I promise I'll never, ever get annoyed by your cry. That's not true, but you know. And then they put her on my chest for like maybe 10 seconds, 30 seconds. I don't know. And it's like, oh, there's my baby. But remember, I had been in 36 hours of labor, and I had been through surgery, and I had the epidural and everything. So I zonked out. They took her off me, and I passed out or went to sleep, whatever you want to call it. But I like was gone to the world when they were stitching me up and all that. So then like 3 or so hours later, I woke up in another room with like 2 nurses that were on the computer, and they were like talking to each other. It was like no big deal. And I'm like, where's my baby and my husband? And then I'm like shivering like crazy. So my teeth were chattering. That's a normal thing after vaginal birth or cesarean birth or just any major surgery. If anyone tells you a C-section is the easy way out, they're lying to you, or they are misinformed, because a C-section is major abdominal surgery. Yeah, epidural shakes, Kim said. Yeah, I thought I was shivering. I thought I was freezing cold. So it was just, it's a bodily reaction to a traumatic thing happening to your body. So shaking, and they put a warm blanket on me, and then wheeled my bed out like a little while later to try to go find my husband. So we went to the room I had been in. My husband wasn't there. And we ended up finding him. He was by my daughter's side the whole time. So he stayed with her. He took videos of her and photos of her. And they didn't let me see her. Remember, I had her at midnight. They didn't let me see her until 6 a.m. Can you believe that? But I was so thankful that I had a husband that stayed by her side when she was getting her shots. She just got her vitamin K shot. We don't do the whatever the injection they give to newborns. We don't do that one. But anyway, he stayed by her side and took videos of her. It was so cute. And he told her, "It's okay, baby. It's okay." And held her hand and stuff when they were checking her temperature under her arm and stuff like that. So that was like, wow, I married the right man, because when I'm out for the count, he's there for our kids, So yeah. So she was born 6 pounds, 11 ounces, didn't have to stay in the NICU at all. After 6 a.m., whenever they said, "Do you want us to take her away from you so that she can rest?" I was like, "No." So that you can rest. I was like, "No." So I didn't take advantage of that, but sometimes they would take her for tests, like hearing tests or whatever. But so then with Deborah, I was monitoring my blood pressure at home. I had normal blood pressure up until 36 weeks. I was seeing some really weird numbers on my home monitor, and I called my doctor, and she said to go in and get checked at the hospital. So I went to the hospital, and they diagnosed me with preeclampsia. They took blood and urine samples, and they checked my blood pressure, diagnosed me with preeclampsia. I had to stay overnight in the hospital. They let me go home and had a scheduled C-section because she was rear down breech. I was trying to have, with Esther, I was trying to have a vaginal birth with a midwife, but when there started to be complications, I started going with a regular OBGYN. And then with Deborah, I was with a high-risk OBGYN so that I could do a vaginal birth after cesarean, which is called a VBAC. But I was not able to do that because she was drop down breech. They weren't able to turn her. She was sitting in my pelvic bone. So I had a scheduled C-section. So either because I didn't labor, or because they didn't believe in skin to skin, or because she was just born at 37 weeks, 0 days, she came out breathing abnormally. So she spent 3 days in the natal intensive care unit. So I would go as often as I could, relearning to walk after surgery, riding in a wheelchair or pushing a wheelchair as a walker to go visit her as often as they would let me. Every 3 hours, they let me visit her to try to get her to latch on and breastfeed. She had a feeding tube. She was hooked up to breathing machine or monitor. Yeah, like she was hooked up to oxygen, and she was hooked up to like heart monitors and all that. But they weaned her off of those things and were just monitoring her and had the feeding tube, but I was still coming in breastfeeding her and then on the third day, I was able to take her to my room, and we were able to go home after like 5 days in the hospital. So they just visited and made sure that she was okay. Now with David Joshua, I was going to a specific top-notch doctor that will do a vaginal birth after 2 cesareans. Dr. Barb's in Kansas City. She's famous for it. She's all on Facebook in the group for VBACs. They all recommend her. So I went to her. And I was induced with, you can't be induced with Pitocin when you have had 2 C-sections, but you can be induced with the Foley bulb. So I was induced by this, they put a little plastic balloon inside of you, and it slowly over time with a catheter fills up with water, and it forces your cervix to open. So at 5 centimeters dilated, it falls out, and then you can have Pitocin, or I mean, you can have Pitocin, just not starting off with Pitocin. Anyway, you can have Pitocin, or you can have natural contraction. So anyway, I used the peanut ball thing to try to get progressed. So anyway, I got to 8 centimeters. You have to have 10 centimeters. You have to be 10 centimeters dilated to give birth. So with Joshua, I was 8 centimeters dilated, and his heart rate was dipping every contraction. Now that can mean that the baby has the umbilical cord around its neck, or it could mean something else. We don't know. But I did not want to give birth to a stillborn baby. So I told the nurse and the doctor, like, I'm totally fine with a C-section. The important thing is that the baby's safe and alive. It's not, the most important thing here isn't that I have a vaginal birth. The most important thing here is that he's born safe. So I ended up having a non-emergency, non-planned C-section. And there were so many people in the operation room. They were trying to be nonchalant about it, but half of them were wearing blue gowns, half of them were wearing yellow gowns. And there was about 20 in yellow gowns and like 15 in blue gowns. And I asked one of the yellow gowned people why there were so many people in the operation room, because I've had C-sections before. I knew this was different. And they said, well, the people in yellow are pediatric nurses, and once the baby comes out and is perfectly healthy and fine, about 8 of us pediatric nurses are going to leave. So they were concerned because his heart rate was dipping, and this was 10 days past my due date, by the way. They were concerned because his heart rate was dipping, and there was extra people in blue, I'm assuming, because I've had 2 C-sections before. There's a little bit more risk of me hemorrhaging and possibly needing a blood transfusion. Thankfully, neither of those things happened. I also was concerned because 10 days past his due date, he was at risk for pooping in the uterus, and if he inhaled that, it would be toxic to him and it could risk fetal death. So that's why I wanted to be induced 10 days past my due date. I didn't want to go any further. I didn't want that to happen. And God knew that, because as soon as he was born clean, he had not pooped in uterus. He pooped in the nurse's hand before they even weighed him. And so he weighed 1 ounce less than 9 pounds, but I think he came out weighing 9 pounds at least. So he was 8 pounds, 15 ounces. There's 16 ounces in a pound. So anyway, he came out big and healthy. And he didn't have to go to, they did skin to skin at that hospital, and he didn't have to go to natal intensive care at all. He was great at breastfeeding. They let him stay with me on my chest right after surgery and everything. I didn't pass out with him, but I did take advantage of the nurses offering to take him so you can rest, because I needed rest after surgery. So a couple hours after surgery, I decided to take a nap, I think. But yeah. So Esther was born 3 weeks early. 6 pounds 11 ounces. Deborah was born 3 weeks early, 6 pounds 13 ounces. And Joshua was born 10 days after his due date at 8 pounds 15 ounces. So he was my biggest baby. All of my babies were born with full heads of hair. So we're just praying and hoping that this baby comes to full term with no health risks. But because I've had 3 necessary C-sections, there's no doctor in Kansas City that will try for a vaginal birth after 3 cesareans. So I take that as my sign that I shouldn't try. So it's going to be a planned C-section. If everything goes healthy, it'll be at 39 weeks. So I'm due January 16th. If everything goes as planned, it'll be somewhere around January 9th that I would have a scheduled C-section. And believing that with skin to skin and everything that he hopefully won't have any breathing issues. So yeah, and hoping that everything goes well. I'm thankful that all of the blood tests came back healthy and everything. I didn't tell the story of Gabriel's birth. I lost him at 17 weeks. I have that video already uploaded. No need to depress you right now. But let's just say people that complain online about vaginal birth being so difficult, which it is difficult, but that got their baby at the end. It's hard for me to listen to like people joking about that, because the only time I gave birth vaginally, I didn't get to keep the baby. And I have labored intensively for 36 hours and still had to have a C-section. So anyway, birth for me is not necessarily traumatic, but pregnancy is traumatic for me. There are women that have very traumatic birth stories where they had to get blood transfusions and everything, and it's really scary. And I'm thankful that thank God I haven't had to go through that. But since I have had 3 C-sections, the more C-sections you have, the higher risk you have for hemorrhaging and possibly dying if you don't get a blood transfusion in time. So I am going to get my tubes tied. I feel like 4 kids is a good amount of kids to have naturally. And I think when my kids are older, maybe someday we might be foster parents or adoptive parents or not. I don't know. But 4 kids naturally is plenty for us, especially at this time. So yeah. Kim said a C-section seems so much harder on the body than vaginal, at least to me. My labors were 6 hours and 4 hours induced. That's lovely. Yes. I kind of had the best of both worlds. Not best, but I both labored and had the C-section. So yeah. No, you don't have to apologize for having an easy birth story. I'm just saying, when people complain about vaginal birth, but their babies were okay, it just is a little triggering for me. There's these comedians, I'm specifically referring to one video. There's these comedians that they're moms, and they always sit in the car and joke about mom things, and most of their videos are hilarious. But my friend sent me this video of them joking about vaginal birth and about how disgusting and awful it is, and how nobody warns you and tells you about all these things. And some of it was slightly comical, but then when they got towards the end, I just was realizing I need to turn this video off. It's really triggering for me, and it's not fair that they get to complain about birth when they got their baby at the end. You know what I mean? Sorry. But yeah, I'm thankful. Whew, I'm not trying to cry right now. So it has been 1 year, almost. In 1 week, it will be 1 year. No, in 9 days, it will be 1 year since I lost Gabriel. So I'm thankful to have a healthy pregnancy while dealing with that memory. Joshua is turning 2 in 2 days. So on the day of my doctor's appointment, he will be turning 2. So we already celebrated his birthday. So my girls are already like, Harry had his birthday. He's already 2. And we're like, well, kind of something like that. Hey, Teacher Heather, welcome. So anyway, I'm going to a teacher meetup today. We've been getting ready. Hello, Teacher Cindy. Yeah. Teacher Cindy said, hello, watching now. I have had 13 and none of them have been easy. I don't joke about childbirth. It's a death-defying act for humanity. Yeah. Some women that have to have C-sections, they feel cheated out of having their dream birth story, their beautiful birth situation or whatever. Oh yeah. So Cindy said that her 13th child was a C-section. Yeah. So I was going to say, some people that are a lot of people plan these beautiful births at a birth center in the water with a midwife, and we plan and want everything to be great. And some people get that, and sometimes it's beautiful, and they get photos and videos, and they show everyone online that I have this beautiful birth story. So other people get their hope of like, oh, I'm going to plan the same thing, but you can only plan a birth so much. You can plan how you'd like it to go, but ultimately, for me, and for women who grieve the birth story that they wish they had, that's valid. Those emotions are valid. I'm not negating that. I'm just saying, from my perspective, I've never grieved the birth I could have had when it was one of my C-sections, because I still got a healthy baby at the end, because my end goal is the healthy baby. It's disappointing to have C-sections, but I think partly because I had 2 miscarriages before I had Esther, just having a healthy baby at the end, that's the full term and everything, it just seems like a relief. But I have a friend who, she had to have a blood transfusion. She had to have additional surgery after birth and everything. And birth is very, very traumatic for her. And so I can understand that. Also, this one lady online, her pregnancy was very traumatic. So some people don't ever want to think of being pregnant again because of traumatic things they've been through. Sorry, I heard my family. I wasn't sure if someone was calling for me, but it sounds like they're just running around playing. So anyway, Cindy Bennett says she has stories. Oh, I have stories. Yeah. My dream birth was having a healthy baby in any way necessary. I know you feel the same. Yes. I feel like the hospitals were a little bit unfair with the way that they ran things. The hospital that I had Esther in, I wish they had not made me lie on my back for 36 hours. That was extremely painful, and I think it was a little bit there's other positions you can get in that are more comfortable, but they did not allow me to move in any way other than being on my back. Because I have extra stomach fat, if I turned on my side, they couldn't monitor the baby's heart rate. So they didn't let me be in any other position except for like 30 minutes. They let me rock in a rocking chair. But I felt like that was like cruel and unusual punishment, making a pregnant woman lie on her back on a hard hospital bed. It was very uncomfortable. I felt like that could have been handled better. At Deborah's birth, I think they should have done skin to skin. I think that would have helped her breathe better. With Joshua, I feel like I shouldn't have been the one saying, let's do a C-section. I feel like they should have been the ones saying it, but I'm glad that they listened to me. They were so hesitant when I said, no, I don't care about it being a vaginal birth. I want a healthy baby. If it has to be a C-section, let's do a C-section. They were like, oh, we feel so bad for you because you labored for so long and you got to 8 centimeters and you did so well. And we feel bad that you can't have your vaginal birth. I'm like, no, guys, I didn't come here for a vaginal birth. I came here for a baby. You know what I mean? So I feel like hospitals could get a little better on some of the things they do. But yeah. Oh, Cindy, when your daughter had her first, all the doctors and nurses were awful. Okay, that's another thing you realize when you're in the hospital. There are some nurses that are awesome and some nurses that were awful. The one who almost killed Esther was horrible. And she was lecturing me and telling me I was going to hurt my baby. She's the one who raised the Pitocin level and made her heart rate plummet. Anyway, but there were other nurses who were wonderful, you know. I found a doctor. I really, really love the hospital that I gave birth to Joshua in. So I'm going to a different doctor's office that works at the same hospital. And my new doctor seems fantastic. But really, the doctor, staff, and nurses that you have make a huge difference. Oh, Heather said, my youngest had the umbilical cord wrapped around her neck twice and almost didn't survive. My eldest, they left her in the birth canal so long that she came out purple. That is so dangerous because even if they survive, that can cause brain damage, you know? Y'all are making me thankful for my doctor and nurses I had. Well, good. I had pretty good nurses all along. So that was bad for me as a mom and knowing how bad they really were. Yeah, in comparison to the good ones, right? Oh, thank you for praying for a safe and healthy delivery. I think my husband wants me to get off the computer. No. What? He texted me, but the words he texted make no sense in English or Spanish, so I'm guessing it was a pocket dial. I don't know. Okay. So we don't have to talk about this topic. We can talk about a different one. Teacher Heather said, I have a question off topic. Would you tell a regular student that you are looking to get certified for the next level so that the student can book you? I would tell that student once I got the certification. I would send them, continue teaching you classes when you move up. But I probably wouldn't let them know before I had the certification, but that's me personally. I say the e-card because you could put it in a feedback. But I'm assuming like if you haven't seen that student that day, you could send an e-card. I love the e-cards we can send. I should probably send them more often. One thing I do, totally off, changing topic. One thing I do whenever I've received several 5-apple reviews from the same parent, I get on the teacher portal and I respond. Oh, okay. My husband needs me to come downstairs and watch the kids so he can go. Okay, let me have to get going. Yeah. I like saying thank you. And I like to go above and beyond complimenting the student and saying how much I enjoy that student. When they give me several 5-apples, I'll respond to all of the 5 apples and say something different nice about the student. Like, I always smile ear to ear whenever I see Summer on my schedule. I'm always so happy to teach your student. I'm happy every time we have class together to see their English improving, or I love how this student takes their toys and participates in class. When we say zebra, he's always got a zebra toy right there. So anyway, I have to get going because my husband wants me to watch the kiddos while he runs to the post office. Oh, that's great. Yes. And I also think that replying to 5-apple feedback with compliments and gratitude is more successful than asking for feedback, because when you ask for feedback, it doesn't seem to be that successful, at least for me. But replying with gratitude, those people tend to continue to give 5 apples. So anyway, that's all I've got for you. Thanks for listening to my traumatic stories. All right. I'll talk to you later. Mwah, bye. Wait, how do you end it? Oh, yeah. Huh. Well, that's funny. Oh, okay, there we go. Bye-bye.